Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where Executive Coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hi there, leaders. Welcome to episode number 33 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. I want to fill you in, as I always do. For my new listeners, I like to give you a quick personal update about what's going on around the Cowan household. And then we're going to jump into a juicy topic today. So we are about 2 months out from closing and moving into our house. And so we have been slowly working on some cool projects to do around the house. And we moved into a new build. And so it's like a blank canvas in here. And so one cool thing that we're doing today is we're having this really cool banquette built into our kitchen, Eden kitchen nook. There's this really great, beautiful bay window. And I had this vision where I'm like, it would be a perfect spot to have this massive banquette built in to pile everybody around the table and have really great memories and family meals around this big table kitchen. And that's what we're doing today. So I'm trying to get into this podcast and get some content built out for you before all of the drilling and loud sounds occur. So we built this banquette. And who knows? I think I filmed one podcast from the movie room and theater room. So maybe we'll do one from the kitchen island one day and you can see the banquette in the back. So that's what's going on here today. We also are headed out this weekend to Atlanta. We're going to Cheer Sport, which is a national competition for our daughter that is a competitive cheerleader, and we'll be headed out for a road trip. And really excited to do that and be able to get to see her perform in a massive stage. So it's super fun. And then the following weekend is her birthday. We'll have a 14-year-old birthday party, a big slumber party that we're planning. So lots and lots always going on here. That's what's going on with us. But today I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I've heard through client conversations. And so, as you know, what I also like to do for those of you that have been following me for a while is to talk through themes and situations that have occurred in real life and then share them here with you so that you can glean some knowledge from them. And I can share what themes and topics, because I believe that if certain leaders at your level, like senior level leaders, are struggling with this, typically, if I'm hearing it more than once, I know there's got to be more of you out there that are also challenged with it. And if not yourself, perhaps as a senior leader, maybe somebody that is on your team that you can be mentoring or supporting as a direct supervisor as well. So that's what we're going to do today, is dive into those stories. And what the theme or the topic around it is this theme of giving away authority or deferring to authority and giving away power rather than owning and stepping in and taking over your own power, if that's what you want to do as a senior leader. And so I'll start with some client stories that I will keep them confidential, but I got permission to share just generally what's happening with some of these clients to share, again, thematically what's happening without the specific details. But the first one I want to go into is a senior leader that I was talking to that owned a process and owned this big process where, the whole organization used this, but really was the owner of this area of the business and really wanted to make an improvement into it. There was some automation that's needed, some technology, some resources, some investment needed in this area, and had these ideas all along. When they were asked by a peer that was a little bit newer to the company about the process, and she brought up some of the improvements she wanted to make, they asked her why they hadn't made the suggestion, why she hadn't brought that up. And her answer to that was that she said she didn't know she had the authority to ask, which is really interesting. So when this peer brought this up to the leadership team, they were shocked. They had no idea that and again, she had never brought it up. And then they quickly signed off on this change to make these improvements. It was just like a no-brainer situation where it made a lot of sense to make the improvements. But she also realized, that it was time to have a conversation around her as a senior leader within the organization, and to have a conversation around her empowerment and how they were empowering her, and making sure she knew she had the authority and the ability to make these calls, right? Or at least suggest these changes and bring these things up to leadership. And so that's example number one. Okay. Example number two, I had a client that assumed a new role as a senior leader and took on a new role reporting right into the CEO. And she was working through some feedback that she had been getting on trying to be more strategic. And during the coaching situation, she realized that rather than coming to the CEO and presenting and leading with her own ideas, she had subtly just realized that she had been waiting for specific direction on what strategy that she needed to come up with, or what strategic thinking needed to look like from this leader. And she realized then, when we had this conversation during coaching, that her role had shifted. And now it really was up to her to make these calls and make these decisions in her world, and to come to the table with all of this and to consult her boss, rather than just defer to her and defer to her direction that was never actually going to come. So it was just a really eye-opening experience, where as a very simple coaching conversation allowed her to see where she was deferring and waiting for direction. And then the last story was more around a senior leader's individual career path. I had this client that was thinking through her goals and what she wanted out of her career. And what had been happening was that she was deferring to her managers and her leaders to take care of her career path. So she was just basically putting faith into them that they would know exactly what she wanted, and that they would advocate for what was best for her and keep her top of mind and front of mind, even though she had never shared what her ultimate career path desires and wants were with her leader. She'd never even talked about it and brought it up. And she was assuming and just thinking that the next step would come, and that, that there would be alignment there, when she hadn't even voiced what she wanted, and to check in to see if that was even a possibility within this organizational structure and with this company. And so I wanted to share those examples because I think they're powerful. And again, while very different, right? Where it's very different when we're talking about career pathing, where we're talking about owning the strategic guidance and vision, and owning that part of, the team, and then owning maybe a process, or maybe maybe you're a subject matter expert and you own something with your team, right? Very different, but ultimately that same thread applies, right? Where it's like, we're waiting for someone else to make the decision, or we're giving the power, or we're giving the authority to someone else, rather than realizing it's within us. And again, of course, there's some interdependencies here, right? Of course, we need to partner and align with our colleagues and our boss and our teams, right? But when we're not even making those moves or taking the action to get there, and we're just sort of like handing over the power, that's where potentially we may want to make some changes. So let's talk about, like, why does this happen and why do we defer? And again, we're still, these are senior leaders, right? And again, so not a bad thing. So I know it's happening at all different levels of the organization, but especially when I talk to you as senior leaders about why we defer. And so here's some reasons, and definitely these are not reasons to beat yourself up about. They're just human nature about why we do this. So one reason why we defer is quite simply human nature. It's just easier. Okay, it's easier. So again, remember, as leaders, and we are human beings, But we also are part of what's called the emotional triad, where we want to take the easy route and we want to take the easy path, and we want to conserve energy because it's just human nature. And so why would you want to come up with ideas when others can do it for you, right? So it's human nature. And we might do this unconsciously. But it can be a lot easier and simpler when somebody else makes decisions for you. So quite simply, it's just human nature. Number two, it's a routine and it's a habit we built. So because it's easier, it also is something that becomes habitual, right? So another thing to think about this way too is society's kind of set us up and brought us up this way. So in school and work, we're in systems where it's set up this way, where we come in, we follow the rules, we listen to authority, we do what we're told, and then we get rewarded. We get rewarded with the A in school. We get rewarded with the annual performance reviews, and we're coming up through the system like, you did a great job by listening and doing the work and doing what you're told. So a lot of ways, this is a habit that when we become a leader, we have to really consciously break, right? And we have to like consciously think, okay, we have to step out and break this habit of just waiting for direction. And rarely is it taught through some of these systems to really healthfully navigate through leading with confidence through uncertainty and through ambiguity. And we don't necessarily put that into the lesson plan always. And so we learn by experience, but we're not outright told at times that we need to step out and lead through all this ambiguity, and there's not a lot of direction always on how to do it. Okay. There's not a lot of reward given for that. Okay. So it's sort of like this expectation without the lesson. So that's another way, but there's a couple more here. So, number three is, if we don't make the decision and we can defer that decision and defer to authority, then ultimately we can't be held accountable and we're not to blame. So you can see how that, like, again, false belief sets us up and it makes it easier, right? We believe like, okay, if somebody else makes this call, it's not my fault, right? Number four, I think about this one with the career conversation and deferring your career decisions here, but we sometimes decide to trust others' opinions and their judgment more than our own. So when we're deferring, like, what is my next career step and what's my next plan of action, what role would be right for me, we just defer and we trust somebody else's call, right? And then number five, this is a good one. It's healthy, but at times, we have this belief that we're top of mind for everyone, right? We believe that somebody else is looking out for us, that we're always top of mind, and that others are always going to have a career and interest in the forefront of their mind. And again, that sounds really great. That's a good thing. And I'm not saying that mentors or leaders or someone's not advocating for you. By no means. This doesn't mean that that's not true. However, I think it's really important to have the open and honest conversation to check and make sure that you are aligned and not assume that this is the case. Okay. So again, a lot of times, even if you have a great relationship with someone as a supervisor or again, an advocate within the company, it doesn't always mean that your interests are aligned and that this assumption can be true. So it's important to vocalize that. Okay. So those are the reasons why we defer. And let's talk about, like, now, what do we do about it? And so as a coach, I really want to advise you, again, like I started the top of the podcast to say, like, this is not reasons to beat yourself up, right? So this is not a session where we were like using these things against you if you've been doing any of these things. It's not bad or wrong. It's just human nature at times where we do give away power and authority and we defer. It's okay. It's just, now at this point, I'm advocating that you have the awareness and that you make the decision consciously with that awareness. So, and I'm not advocating that you have to change if you don't want to. All right. And so I know a lot of you that listen to this podcast are open to change and open to growth and open to what's next for you. So I know this will probably strike a chord with a lot of you, but if you're on the other side of that fence, it's okay if you decide you'd rather not. That's okay too. Okay. So let's go through, if we decide what we do want to do, how to handle it. And so the first thing I want to say is, again, simply have some awareness and some things that you can do to ask yourself to see if you're showing up this way in any part of your life is ask the question, am I deferring my power and my decision-making authority to someone else? And you can look at all aspects of your life and look at this. It doesn't have to just be within the workplace, but are there places where you are just basically handing over that authority to make decisions and power to someone else in your life? Another great question is am I waiting to be told what to do? Right? Is there anywhere in your life where you're like, someone's coming to me with the answers, they're going to give me the direction, they're going to tell me exactly what to do? And in regards to the career path, like, am I handing over the reins to my career to someone else? And am I expecting them to take care of it? Right? And if I am I aligned with what they're intending to do and what they want to do and advocate for me? Right? Is aligned with my interests. And then the second piece is maybe question why. If you find out those places of the aspects of your life and you are doing this, just ask the simple question, like, why am I doing this? And then quite simply too, do I want to keep doing it? Do I want to change my actions, or do I want to keep staying in this place? And not from a place, again, of beating yourself up or saying you did anything wrong. It's just more so, do I want to change my behavior? And if so, how would I do it? What would I do differently? Where could I take some of my power and decision-making authority back? All right. And that's where the action can start to happen, right? So just having an awareness, then questioning if you want to keep doing what you're doing or not. All of it's okay. Whatever you decide, all are good decisions. And I say this to the senior leaders out there, that if this is not you, and if you're like, I definitely do not give away decision-making power, great for you. That's what you want to keep doing. But do you know someone that is? As a senior leader, maybe it's a direct report, maybe it's a mentee or peer or someone that you care about. Maybe someone that it's just worthy of having some conversations, and perhaps they might need some support, coaching, someone that's in your ecosystem where you see this come up for them. Okay. So, I think, again, I've seen this absolutely in senior leaders. So I know that it's happening at different levels within the organization. And how do you coach someone and train someone as they're coming up through their career? That if they want to get into a place where they're owning their authority and making decisions and owning their career path, how do we help coach them to do so? So think about that. And maybe there is a place that you can influence. All right. Well, that is what I have for you today. I want you to think about it. Again, totally fine if you decide I'd like to make a change, or if I'd like to stay exactly as I am. All is good. And if you need help with this, as always, as I've mentioned, I'm coaching with clients and this comes up, and that we can move to awareness. And again, if there is desired change, we can move to desired change very quickly, so that you get out of that place where you're not feeling that discomfort and you're not feeling that sense of powerlessness and that sense of not having that ability to own your own path, right? So we can move through that very quickly together if that's something you want to do. So you know where to reach out to me. I am available on my website. It's Alicia Cowan Coaching. It's ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. And I would love to see you there. I'd love to see you reach out and tell me what you are liking and what you want more help with. Always happy to help. So thank you all for listening as always, and have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.